Assalamualaikum and hello everyone. Today I'm going to reflect on my simulated teaching experiences that happened on 22 November 2024. In this reflection, I'm going to evaluate, explain the strength and areas for improvement in my own teaching practice. So, my simulated teaching focused on teaching from 3 students and I use healthy food as my topic. And lastly, I also use discussions, lecturing, and group work as my teaching strategy. So for the learning objective in my simulated teaching, I want my students to be able to keep interaction going in longer exchanges by asking them to slow down, speak up, or repeat what they have said. Secondly, I want them to explain their own point of view, and lastly, I want them to explain simple content from what they have read or heard. And the reason why I choose this learning objective because I want to enhance my students' speaking skills. And by referring to this learning objective, I begin my lesson with a discussion with my students about the pictures of different types of food that I display in front of the class. And this is actually to stimulate their curiosity and interest for the lesson. After that, I began to explain about different type of nutrients in food by using food pyramid and include the ways to create a balanced meal. Then I conduct a mini activity where I ask my students to list the benefit of eating healthy food and require them to present it orally in front of the class. And lastly, to help them apply this knowledge, I ask my students to work in pairs and create a daily balanced meal in their own preference. This activity also requires them to present orally in front of the class. Okay, moving on to the important part in this reflection, which is critical analysis on my simulated teaching. Here, I'm going to evaluate how my teaching methods help my students to achieve the learning objective. So, if we look at the first learning objective, it happened in my set inductive, where I encourage my students to give their opinions regarding to the picture that I show in front of the class. Here, my students are able to actively engage and interact with their teacher and peers by asking questions and giving answers. Therefore, my teaching method helped my students to achieve the first learning objective. As for the second learning objective, if we look at the lecturing and activity parts where my students express their own opinions about the benefits of eating healthy food, here that they are able to discuss and exchange ideas with their peers regarding the benefit of eating healthy food. They are also managed to present their ideas orally in front of the class. Therefore, my teaching methods help my students to achieve the second learning objective. Okay, as for the last learning objective, if we look at the activity in my simulated teaching, whereby I ask my students to create and explain their reason in choice of balanced meal, here they are able to collaborate and exchange opinions about their preference of balanced meal, which shows their understanding for the lessons and ability to apply it in daily life. Therefore, my teaching methods help my students to achieve the third learning objective. So, after evaluating my simulated teaching, I am going to explain the strengths and weaknesses I had identified in my lessons. First, let's take a look at the strength in my lessons. So, first of all, I was able to catch my student interest and attentions from the beginning until the end of the lessons. This is said because I used visual aid such as pictures and slides as my teaching materials, which enhance my students' motivations and encourage them to stay focused during the lessons. Secondly, I was able to encourage my students to interact during the lessons. This is said because I gave my students the opportunity to ask and answer questions during the lessons. Apart from that, I also conducted pair activities to encourage them exchanging ideas with their peers. And lastly, I believe my lessons are meaningful and fun. This is said because I use healthy food as their learning content, which which is useful for their knowledge in their daily life. And to make it fun, I also conducted hands-on activity where my students need to create a daily balanced meal according to their own preference. Therefore, these are the strengths that I had identified in my simulated teaching. So, next, I'm going to explain the weaknesses I had identified in my simulated teaching. Firstly, overemphasize on teacher-centered instructions. In the initial part of the lessons, the focus was primarily on lecturing, where my students are mostly listening to my explanation about healthy food. This caused limited interaction between me and my students, reducing the opportunity for active participations. As a result, there was a risk of my students losing their interest as they not fully engaged in the learning process. And secondly, limited English use during the class. So during the sessions, one of my students asked a question in other language other than English, and I missed the opportunity to correct and encourage them to use English instead. So as English teacher, I recognize the importance of fostering an English speaking environment to help my students to improve their language skill. And lastly, handling technical issue. At the beginning of the lessons, I encountered a technical issue that interrupted the flow of the class. Rather than moving forward with the alternative plans, I paused to resolve the problem. Then I realized that I should have a backup plan such as using a physical materials or handout which allow me to continue the lesson smoothly without disrupting the students' learning experiences. Therefore, these are the weaknesses that I need to improve for my future lessons. Okay, let's discuss the potential impact of my lesson on my students' learning experiences. So, by reflecting on my teaching methods, I believe they had a positive impact by addressing the diverse learning style of my students. So, if you look at visual learners, the use of pictures and slides as visual aids help me to cater to students who learn best through visual representations, making the content more engaging and easier to understand. Secondly, if we look at the auditory learners, through discussions and Q&A sessions provided an opportunity for auditory learners to actively engage through listening and verbal communications. These elements supported their learning by allowing them to process information through the sounds. And lastly, for kinesthetic learners, by incorporating hands-on activity, those students created their own balanced meal plans. I ensure that kinesthetic learners had the chance to engage physically with the materials, reinforcing their learning through practical experiences. Thus, I adapted these teaching methods to ensure that every learning style was addressed effectively. I will seek mentorship where I plan to consult with my lecturers and experienced teachers for advice and feedback on how to enhance my teaching practices. Secondly, I'm going to explore on student-centered teaching strategy where I will conduct research and adopt those methods that focus on student engagement and active participations. This actually include exploring strategy like project-based learning and cooperative learning. And lastly, I'm going to design and refine my own teaching strategy, where I aim to create a personalized teaching approach tailored to my student needs, and I will seek feedback from my lecturers to improve my own teaching. And by implementing this step, I am confident that I can enhance the effectiveness of my teaching and provide a better learning experiences for my students. So, to conclude this reflection, my simulated teaching has provided a valuable insight and opportunity for growth and improvement. These experiences has deepened my understanding of effective teaching practice and highlighted the importance of self-reflection for professional development. I am truly grateful for the opportunity to assess my teaching and identify strategy to enhance my skill. I aim to become a more effective educator to create and impactful learning experiences for my students. So that's all for me. Thank you for watching.